Hey everyone, welcome to Heart to Heart Week 5. This week we'll be talking about Chapter 5, which is titled The Law of the Gift, Understanding the Two Sides of Love. So, this week we're going to be talking about the two literal parts of love. A lot of people just think it's just kind of a culmination of many things and many definitions, but love is actually defined very specifically, and then we're going to talk about the two ways that the two aspects of it this week and their individual definitions. So, there we go. So, the Catechism defines love as: to love is to will the good of another. So, it's pretty straightforward and to the point. Love is to literally will someone else good in their life. So, you want what's best for them, you want them to be happy, you will do what it takes to make them happy and to bring about this good for them. That's what love is. Simplified, of course, but it's basically the straight up definition of love. So there are two sides of love, the subjective side and the objective side. So the subjective aspect is kind of what we've talked about already. We have talked about sentimentality and we've talked about sensuality. Sentimentality has to do with our emotional attraction towards someone, and sensuality has to do with our physical attraction towards someone. And this is this first side of love is the subjective aspect. So on its own, the subjective aspect of love is no more than a pleasurable experience that we happening inside of us. So, kind of like we've talked about before, it has to be supplemented by other authentic acts of love. If there's just a subjective, If there's just a subjective aspect of love, it hinders you from being able to fully love. If it's just on its own, of course. So, it's an illusion of love because it focuses on how one feels. So it looks inward, basically. It's not looking at the other person and wondering, what would be best for them. It's more looking at, what you can get out of the relationship or the friendship or whatnot, and how it makes you feel and how pleasurable it is for you. And it's not really looking at the other person and their good. The second side of love is the objective aspect. So this has to do with going beyond the pleasurable feelings of the subjective level. It involves virtue, friendship, and the pursuit of a common good. And both people are focused on a common goal outside of themselves. They look at the relationship in reality and not what it means based on their feelings. So this aspect of love is actually very good. It's a truer form of love that we either grow into or eventually learn, and it's usually that's not how the objective aspect is. More it's like I said, it's a growing experience and you learn about it as you're in a relationship. You don't really start off just knowing the objective aspect of love and being I will be good for you, I'm going to do everything I can to make you happy, blah, blah, blah. Usually it starts out with the subjective aspects because we're learning about the person, we're getting to know who they are, we feel good when we're around them, and we have a lot more feelings at the beginning that are just exploding, kind of like we've talked about before. So, the objective aspect of love is definitely something that happens over time for sure. So, unless a man and a woman have the objective aspects of love in their relationship, they do not yet have a true bond of love. So, which is fine. It's not a horrible thing because people obviously, like I said, it happens over time. The objective aspect doesn't just happen right away. But if they seriously that's not part of the love that they share in their relationship, then that can be a bad thing because it's hindering them from having a bond of true love. So it's pretty easy to love others when we get a lot in return from them, right? If someone does something nice for you, it's easy to just be oh my gosh, I love you so much, you did this nice thing for me. And like, it's very easy to say that or to show love for someone when they have done something great towards you. But is it really that easy to love someone when they haven't done something loving to you in return or just in general? It's not that easy. So the objective aspect of love reminds us that true love is not merely about my experience of good feelings, but it's about the commitment to the other person and seeking what's best for them. The objective aspect of love is very vital for relationships and forming these true bonds of love, because if we don't have it, then it's hard to look past our feelings and our anger and all this stuff that we may initially instinctively feel when someone does something to wrong us. But it looks past that and instead reaches out in a loving manner towards that person. So the slide I'm showing next is just kind of a summary of the two aspects of love that we've talked about. So just kind of look through it, and it's a more easy to understand and simplified version of everything I just said. So so I'm just going to show that to you really fast, and we'll come back and I'll continue talking about this week's topic. So what is self-giving love? How can you live it out in your friendships and your relationships right now? And how might you be able to live it out in your marriage one day if you're unmarried? Just think about that for a minute. Really think about what self-giving love is. What does that entail? What does that look like in a relationship? What does that mean for you or for other people? How have you seen it lived out in marriages and other relationships today? So just think about that as we kind of go through this next part of the discussion this week. So we have the freedom to love. We were not forced to love, to be beings that love others. We were not forced. God gave us the gift of love to do with it what we will. This is not something that we're forced into. Think about it. You're not forced to love anyone. You freely choose to do so. So the beauty of self-giving love is that as single people, we get to do everything we want, when we want to do it. We have our own timelines, our own schedules, and blah, blah, blah. But when a man and a woman are driven by love, they freely choose to give up their single life by committing themselves to the good of the other person. So basically, that's a big deal, and a lot of people, that's another reason why our society has problems with commitments these days, because we don't want to give up that freedom. We want to have it for the rest of our lives, and we don't want to be attached to someone. So a lot of people will say, why would I ever want to give up my single life and commit myself to someone in this way? Why would I want to limit the freedom that I have right now why would I want to limit the freedom to do whatever I want with my life, basically? But these people are mistaken. Life isn't about doing whatever we want. Life is about fulfilling the plan that God has for us. And it's easy to get caught up in the things that we like to do and the things that we want to do and all this stuff. But we have to remember the reason that why we're on earth. God has given us this gift of life, and He wants us to live it out in the best way we can. And this life is not our own. This is a life that God has given us. So we are here on earth to fulfill His will for us. So the people who say that, well, when I'm single, I can do whatever I want, and I don't want to commit myself to anyone, blah, blah, blah. But really, even though you are single and you're doing, quote, whatever you want, God has a plan for you no matter what. and that plan is not to do whatever you want. He will listen to your wants and desires, and He will fulfill those, but His plan for you may be different than what you see. So really, when people say that they don't want to commit themselves to someone else because why would they want to limit their freedom? Well, it really is not their life that they're living. It's a life that they have been given by God that is meant to fulfill His plan for them. So in Bible study this week, we read 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And I know it's kind of a popular Bible passage that a lot of people have heard and a lot of people have read. But we read it, and I just asked the girls, like, what stands out to them, and why is it, like, why is this so important, and why would it be that love is talked about in this way? Some girls were intrigued by the fact that love is the greatest out of faith, hope, and love. Someone was thinking that faith should be put first and such, but it is just an interesting Bible passage to think about and reflect on. So I would encourage you to read it and just really think about the words that it's saying and kind of process them in your head and think about how you can apply it to your life and your relationships and friendships and so on. So that is all I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will be back to talk about chapter 6 next week. All right, see you later.